Good morning, Hornets. Happy 1027. In just a minute, we're going to get to an excellent morning meeting from Mr. Kane, but we have an announcement for you today. Online school has been really hard. It's been really challenging, but we've been very proud of you and everything that you've done so far. One thing we are noticing, though, is that some members of our community have turned into ghosts. They've been unresponsive in class, and we know how important it is to stay engaged and participate throughout in class throughout the day, and we really want to make sure that you're able to do that to the best of your ability. So there's a new policy that's going to be taking place.
So our new policy is unresponsive in class. It is a college prep. These are earned by doing one of the following actions. Leaving class during important instructional time, so leaving early, for instance. Being unresponsive to teachers if they call you by name, if they're trying to get a hold of you in the chat, and if you do not attempt to work in class. So what's going to happen if you earn one of these? Well, the first thing that will happen is your teacher will notify you after they've tried to respond to get you to respond. If they don't hear back from you, they'll let you know that you've earned this. You and your advisor will receive an email. Those of you who have been in our school before, it's a Compass email, and so you'll get notified that way. And then at the end of the day, your parents will receive a call home. So what can you do instead in order to avoid one of these consequences? The first thing is communicate with your teacher. If you know ahead of time that you're going to need to use the bathroom, if you're having a Wi-Fi issue, if you need to, restart your computer, let them know. Do your work. Make sure that you're trying everything. Even if it's hard, try your best. Let your teacher know that you need help. Advocate for yourself. If you know that you've got a question or you need some more support with something, let them know. See how they can support you. And then, of course, stay in class the entire time. If you need to leave for whatever reason, talk to your teacher ahead of time.
We know this is a new system, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Ms. Schultz, or your advisor. We're excited about this, for you continuing to do your work and doing your best. Have a lovely day, and take it away, Mr. Kane.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. Hopefully you're awake and you're adapted to the sleep schedule of right after fall break. My name is Mr. Kane, in case you didn't know, and I teach AP US History and AP Government. But the topic I'm going over today, I like to call flipping the script, owning your weakness. And before I dive into what this topic is, I wanted to give some context of why I thought this would be a good topic for morning meeting. So, it was really random. Personally, I just had an overwhelming week right before a fall break, where that feeling of I'm just not a good enough teacher, not a good enough advisor, not a good enough friend, family member, just that feeling of just not really being enough. So after kind of trying to escape that with running, which was kind of helpful, I kind of realized I need to sit down, reflect, and think of why I had this feeling and what could I do to really just stop this negative thought process. So the skill I'm about to go over is a skill that I've been learning over time and still not any master at it, but I just thought would be beneficial because 2020 has thrown just so many challenges and there's been so many possible ways you could feel like maybe for some reason you're not enough. So how do we reverse just these negative scripts that we have in our head? So, this whole scale of flipping the script is not something that's original to me. There's actually a lot of research behind it. One person that really has researched this scale, her name is Brene Brown. She is a social and psychological researcher, and instead of phrasing this as flipping the script, she phrases this as storytelling. And she states that storytelling helps us all impose order on chaos. 2020, chaotic year, including emotional chaos. When we're in pain, we create a narrative to help us make sense of it. This story doesn't have to be based off of any real information, it's just perception. However, the most resilient people, so the people that she's researched that basically have gone through really tough things and been able to not only survive but thrive from it, she says that these people, they have the skill of recognizing the own myths that they have in their head and challenging them. And the good news is this is a skill that anyone can really learn. So, basically to kind of go over this really deep scale, because this is really metacognition, it's thinking about thinking. I would like to share an example of how I've done this in the past. So, if you just learned who I am from this meeting, you're really going to get to know who I am now. So, One negative script or story that I had, especially through middle school and high school, was this script and story about the gay voice, as I like to call it. So the story I told myself was because I have a certain effeminate and nasally voice, especially as a gay person, that people won't take me seriously. So I hated hearing recordings of myself. I tried to manipulate how I sounded, and I just didn't love this core part of myself. So I, over time, learned how to flip the story, and instead of think of my voice as something that I'm ashamed of, I learned to really love and nurture this part of myself. So here's a script that I've learned to kind of have about my own voice. And one thing is, first of all, just by being a confident person and confident in who I am as a teacher, I can empower those that feel ashamed of their voice or gender expression, or basically who sound or maybe just act different than like a gender or societal norm. I can empower them to also like be confident in themselves. So just like leading by example, which I'm sure in some capacity you do lead by example. So um another way to flip the script is also just by being confident in myself as a professional. I'm proving that you don't have to sound a certain way to be taken seriously as a professional. So I don't have to sound like a typical, straight male to be taken seriously as a professional. I can use my personality and my confidence to be taken seriously as professional and like be known for the content of what I'm speaking and my character instead of just like how my voice sounds. So again, this is just a skill that I think is going to take time to learn. I'm still learning myself, but here's just some thoughts I have for you as you just end this morning meeting. So, one thing I want to challenge you with is just thinking about the stories that you are telling yourself. So, it could be from stories about your identity, who you are, your abilities, how you're handling um, situations that you're in. Really, these stories, if it's a script and it's something that is negative that keeps cycling in your head that's bringing you down, I want you to first recognize it and even write it down. Because often it's hard to put concretely things that are bringing us down. So write it down in a sentence. So here's some examples I've thought of, but doesn't cover everything. So the idea that I don't feel enough as I'm trying to balance supporting family, work, and grades. The feeling of being a bad student because you're struggling in a class. The feeling that all the work that you're doing is pointless because it's virtual learning and you don't feel like you're learning as much. Write these things down that keep cycling in your head. And then the next task is to take some vulnerability is you finding someone that you trust to review the script that's in your head and work with someone to rewrite that script. And whether it's a certain situation that you're trying to learn from or a part of who you are that you're trying to love, trying to frame it that way. Because that's ultimately going to impact your perception of how you're viewing everything that's going around you. So my number one suggestion is of course your advisor. My hope is that you develop that trust with your advisor that you can count on them to, share these things with. But that's not the case. Ask friends, ask your dean, ask parents, just people that you trust that you can really sit through and think about how can I rethink the things that are going on with me, especially this year. So this is probably not something that you're going to be able to immediately respond in like a advisory morning meeting chat. However, I do want you to just keep this in mind, especially as you check in with your advisor or just update anyone about how life is going this year. Because I think we all could use some self-love and just believe in who we are in the midst of what's happening this year. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your week.